Someone left a paralyzed mother to keep 2 puppies alive on a sidewalk. Manhattan rain slashed under blue scaffolding on West 34th, yellow taxi lights stuttering across wet concrete like a warning. She lay there, a German Shepherd puppy's mother, her back half slack, her front legs locking into the ground as she covered 2 shaking bodies with everything that still worked. Traffic spat dirty water. People stepped around us, phones up, not slowing. I'm Julian Ortiz, and I was already late. I still stopped. Easy, girl. I'm here. My voice sounded thin against the horns. One puppy twitched closer to the curb at the blast of a bus, tiny paws scratching at the grit. The other pressed into her chest, hidden under the shelf of her ribs. She couldn't feel her back legs, but she moved anyway, dragging her body forward with her shoulders, blocking the street with her weight. I crouched, palms open. The air smelled like hot pretzels, wet concrete, and fear. I broke a street hot dog into thumbnail pieces. For them first. The first puppy ate in jittery snaps, then the second, tiny jaws clacking. The mother watched and wouldn't touch food until their mouths slowed. A German Shepherd puppy shouldn't have to learn traffic, but the city doesn't ask permission. Another horn scattered my thoughts. The little one's paws scraped the painted line where sidewalk meets drop. I slid a towel under her chest and felt bone and rain-heavy fur. She turned her head, teeth grazing my wrist, then pressed her tongue to the same spot like an apology I didn't deserve. Good girl. My hands shook, not from her, from me. I know what happens when you care in this city. It takes everything and asks for more. A security guard from the building stared at us through steam-fogged glass. A delivery cart squealed somewhere behind me. I folded the towel into a sling, a makeshift promise. The mother braced on her fronts and pulled again, shielding the puppies while tires hissed inches away. I shifted my weight to lift all 3, and the slick cardboard under her began to move. The curb caught the edge like a jaw, the towel tugged, and one puppy slid a hand's width closer to the street as a taxi surged past. The cardboard lurched, wheels shrieked, and for a heartbeat I thought I'd lost them. A German Shepherd puppy skidded toward the gutter, his claws scraping helplessly against the wet concrete. I threw my knee down, blocking him, while the mother dragged herself forward on trembling fronts, teeth flashing, not at me, but at the city that kept trying to take her family. Rain gathered in her fur, dark rivers running down her back legs that wouldn't move. She pressed her chest against both puppies, pulling them into her as though her body alone could erase the noise, the danger, the world. I crouched lower, one hand shielding their heads, the other fumbling for anything that could serve as a barrier. My backpack hit the ground hard, spilling papers, but it stopped one puppy from slipping farther. Stay with me. Just stay. My voice cracked like the sidewalk under us. A horn split the air, and the smaller German Shepherd puppy bolted sideways, crashing into my thigh. I caught him against me, his heartbeat hammering into my chest like it wanted out. The mother stretched her neck, nose pressing against my wrist, her eyes demanding, "Don't let go. Not now." I pulled a leash loop from my pocket, the kind I kept for emergencies, and slipped it around the first puppy's neck. He bucked once, then froze, staring up with rain-smeared eyes. The second huddled closer to his mother, paws buried in her fur, trembling but refusing to move. I shoved both into the crook of my arm, their weight awkward, alive, fragile. The mother tried to herself up again, dragging her useless half an inch at a time. I couldn't carry them all like this. Not into traffic, not through the storm of legs and wheels tearing across the block. I needed help, something with wheels, something steady. Behind me, the squeal of rubber grew louder. A delivery dolly rattled toward us, the man pushing it already shouting for space. The metal frame was rolling straight down the sidewalk, and it was aimed right at us. The dolly slammed through puddles, its wheels spraying dirty water across the sidewalk. I twisted, clutching both German Shepherd puppies tight to my chest, while the mother braced on her front legs and barked, low, sharp, the kind of sound that cut through the chaos. The man pushing the cart cursed, swerving at the last second, boxes toppling as he passed. One crate burst open, apples scattering and bouncing like small green alarms across the concrete. The mother collapsed back against the ground, her chest heaving, but her eyes never left the puppies in my arms. I crouched low, shifting their weight into my backpack, tucking them as gently as I could, leaving the zipper wide enough for air. They whimpered, pressed nose to nose in the dark, their bodies trembling against each other. My heart hammered harder than theirs. I looked at her, her fur slick, her hips motionless, and I knew she couldn't make it on her own. Not another block, not another minute. I slid the towel under her again, tugging with both hands. My muscles screamed. She weighed less than she should, bones sharp under wet skin, but dead weight feels like stone when the city pushes against you. That's when the glass door beside us swung open. A security guard in a black jacket stepped out, frowning. "Hey, you can't leave that here." His voice was flat, already turning away. I snapped back, "I'm not leaving them." My eyes darted to the empty dolly abandoned at the curb. The guard sighed, then jerked his chin. "Use it. Just bring it back." I didn't wait for him to change his mind. I dragged the dolly over, wrestled the towel into a sling, and lifted the mother inch by inch onto the metal frame. She trembled, but didn't fight. Her head dropped between her paws, still angled toward the backpack where the puppies whimpered. I set my shoulder against the handle, pushed, and the wheels screamed as the cart bumped forward. People stared. Some filmed. No one stepped in. The mother's gaze never wavered from the pack on my back. She wouldn't move another inch on her own, but her eyes pulled her children forward through me. The cart rattled, hit a crack, and jolted so hard the puppies squealed from inside the bag. The mother barked once, desperate, and I felt the frame tilt toward the street. The dolly jolted sideways, metal frame shuddering, one wheel catching the lip of the curb. For a terrifying second, the whole load tipped, the mother sliding toward the gutter. I lunged, slammed my foot against the frame, and forced it back level. The German Shepherd puppies yelped inside the backpack, their tiny claws raking fabric as if they could hold the world steady themselves. "Not today," I muttered through my teeth, gripping the handle tighter. Rain hammered my shoulders, ran into my eyes. The mother lay across the dolly like cargo she never asked to be, chest rising fast, ears pinned, but her gaze locked on the bag against my chest. Every breath said the same thing. "Don't fail them. Don't you dare." I shoved forward block by block, the dolly rattling over cracks and litter. A man in a suit sidestepped, shaking his head, muttering about traffic. Another raised his phone, catching us in a frame meant for strangers online. I didn't care. The puppies whimpered with each jolt, noses poking at the zipper gap, searching for air for her. At the corner, a cab sprayed dirty water across my legs, and I almost lost the grip again. My heart hammered as the cart skidded, but somehow I held it. We reached the shelter's glass doors. City animal intake, the red lettering peeling with rain. The lobby light glowed warm, unreal, like it belonged to another world. Inside, a clerk looked up, eyes wide. "Intake's full." His voice was flat, already tired. I slammed the dolly against the counter anyway. "She's paralyzed. She's got 2 German Shepherd puppies. You don't send me away." Silence stretched. The clerk looked at her, at me, at the bag that shifted and whimpered. Finally, he buzzed the door. We rolled inside, fluorescent light buzzing overhead, linoleum slick under the wheels. The air smelled like bleach and fear, a mix I knew too well. A tech hurried over, snapping on gloves, eyes scanning the mother, the towel sling, the still pups. "She needs triage, but no kennels open tonight. You understand?" I nodded, throat tight. "Then she comes with me." The tech hesitated, glancing toward the paperwork stack. Rain dripped from my jacket onto the floor. The mother licked the zipper of the backpack where her puppy squirmed, her tongue trembling but certain. The tech sighed, scribbled initials, shoved the form toward me. "Sign. She's yours until morning." I scrawled my name with a shaking hand, the pen bleeding ink across damp paper, while the mother's eyes locked on mine like chains. The pen left a shaky trail of ink across the damp form, but my signature was enough. The tech snapped the paper away, muttering something about liability, then pointed toward the exit. "She'll need a place to lie flat, somewhere quiet. We'll reevaluate tomorrow." It sounded like dismissal, not rescue, but I didn't argue. I just pushed the dolly back toward the door, the wheels squealing like they hated the weight. Outside, Manhattan's night swallowed us again. The rain had thinned to mist, neon signs flickering off wet pavement, steam rising from subway grates. I felt the puppies shift in the backpack, their bodies pressing against each other in silence now, exhausted. The mother lay still on the dolly, but her eyes never closed. Every block I felt her stare burn into the bag on my chest. By the time I reached my building, my shoulders ached, my palms blistered. I wrestled the dolly through the narrow door of my studio, dragged it across hardwood that had never known claws. The room smelled instantly of wet fur and street. I lowered the backpack, unzipped, and the 2 German Shepherd puppies tumbled out, legs stiff, eyes wide, noses searching for her. She pulled herself forward, chest scraping the towel, and wrapped them in her front legs as if the city had never touched them. Their tails thumped weakly, pressed against her ribs. I crouched, laid a bowl of water beside them, poured kibble into a dish. The pups dove in, crunching fast, but she didn't touch it, not until both had stepped back, bellies full. Only then did she lower her head, lapping water in slow, trembling pulls. I leaned against the wall, soaked clothes clinging, and whispered into the dim light, "You don't even know me, but you trust me with everything." My voice cracked, softer than the city's hum outside. She turned her head, met my eyes, and in that silence I felt the weight of her demand. Keep them safe, whatever it takes. I spread blankets across the floor, pulled one over her hind legs she couldn't feel. The pups climbed over her, curling into her chest, their whimpers fading. For the first time all night, the room held stillness, broken only by her heavy breath and the faint rumble of traffic outside. But as I reached to switch off the lamp, she lifted her head sharply, ears pricked, eyes fixed on the door. A low growl slipped from her throat, deep and warning. The growl froze me. My hand hovered over the lamp as her chest rumbled again, low and certain. I stepped toward the door, heart climbing into my throat, but when I peered through the peephole, all I saw was an empty hallway, a flickering bulb, and a pizza box left outside 4B. Nothing more. I eased back, whispering, "It's okay, girl. No one's coming." She didn't relax until the 2 pups pressed tighter against her ribs. I finally crouched beside them, brushing damp fur back from tiny foreheads. "You've got to have names," I murmured, the words spilling before I could stop them. The bigger pup pawed at my wrist, black and tan fur glistening under lamplight. "Niko," I said softly. The smaller one blinked up at me, eyes wide and stubborn even through exhaustion. "Tali." She nuzzled into my palm like she'd accepted it. And the mother, she deserved more than girl. I laid my hand gently on her chest, feeling her heart pounding beneath the weight of everything she carried. "Vera," I whispered. "Strong, steady, you keep going, no matter what." Her ears twitched at the sound, and for the first time she licked my hand without hesitation, sealing the name as her own. Niko yawned so wide I thought he'd topple over, then collapsed against Vera's front paw. Tali wriggled once, found a spot beneath her chin, and gave up to sleep. Vera's eyes stayed open, fixed on me, like she was measuring every breath I took, every move I made. I spread a second blanket under them, tucking it around her useless back legs. I didn't want to admit it, but I was already imagining tomorrow. The shelter's words echoed, "No kennels open," which meant if I walked back in, they might separate them. I couldn't shake the image. Vera wheeled off one way, the puppies carried another. The thought made my stomach twist. I leaned against the radiator, wet clothes steaming faintly, watching them breathe. "I don't know how I'm supposed to do this," I whispered, mostly to myself. Vera's eyes never blinked, never let me go. She was telling me I didn't have a choice. Outside, a siren wailed and faded, swallowed by the city. Inside, Niko whimpered in his sleep, and Vera shifted forward on her front legs until her nose touched the zipper of my backpack, as if to remind me, this is where their lives are tied together now. And whether I was ready or not, so was mine. Morning came with pale light bleeding through the blinds, the kind that makes Manhattan look softer than it ever really is. My studio smelled of damp fur and kibble, but for once, it was quiet. Vera lay stretched across the blankets, her front legs curled around Niko and Tali as though she'd grown new limbs just to keep them close. The 2 German Shepherd puppies stirred awake, climbing over her chest and nipping at each other's ears, already restless for a day they didn't know was waiting. I crouched down, rubbing sleep from my eyes, and pulled out my phone. A friend had texted me about an adoption event happening at Union Square that afternoon. "Crowds, cameras, maybe someone willing to take all 3, I muttered to Vera as if she could weigh the odds with me. She blinked slow, then nudged Tali back into place with her nose, as though to say she wasn't letting them go without a fight. I made a run to Petco, slipping through the early shoppers. I picked up a support harness for Vera, soft food she wouldn't have to chew hard, and small chew toys for the pups. At the register, the clerk smiled at the pile. "Busy house?" I only nodded. I didn't feel like explaining that my house had grown overnight into something that looked more like a family than anything I'd had in years. Back home, I slipped the harness gently around Vera's chest and lifted, careful not to jostle her back end. She leaned into the motion, testing it, front paws pushing forward as though she'd been waiting all night for me to give her that chance. Niko barked once, startled, then wagged his tiny tail as if cheering her on. Tali scrambled over my shoe, looking up at Vera like she'd just watched a miracle. For the first time, Vera took 3 slow, deliberate steps with me, holding the straps, her front legs carrying what her back legs couldn't. The sound of her claws clicking across the floor filled the room with a kind of fragile triumph. I caught myself grinning, breath catching in my throat. "That's it, Vera. Show them." Niko yipped, chasing her paw prints. Tali darted after him, tumbling into a blanket, rolling until she landed back at Vera's side. The little family pressed together, tails wagging like they'd already won. But Vera's eyes lifted past me, toward the window where the city roared on without caring. And in her stare was a challenge I couldn't ignore. Today we'd have to step into that roar together. Union Square pulsed with noise, the kind that rattles through your chest before you even step off the curb. Tents lined the plaza, banners flapping with rescue logos, speakers playing tinny pop music. People laughed, pointed, carried tote bags stuffed with treats and leashes. To everyone else, it was an adoption fair. To me, walking in with Vera strapped into her harness and Niko and Tali trotting at my heels, it felt like a test I hadn't studied for. The German Shepherd puppies pulled forward, their tiny paws skittering against stone, noses catching every smell, popcorn, coffee, other dogs. Vera moved differently. Her front legs punched forward, steady and sure, her back half floating in the sling I held. Each step was deliberate, like she knew all eyes were on her and she wouldn't show weakness. And they were. People stopped. Phones came out. A crowd began to trail behind us. "Is she?" a girl near the fountain asked. I nodded. "Paralyzed, but still the strongest mom I've ever seen." Vera's ears flicked back, but her eyes stayed on Niko and Tali as they darted between my legs, tails wagging, tongues lolling. We reached the center tent where volunteers waved, urging us inside. A woman crouched low, extending her hand to Tali. The puppy sniffed once, then licked her fingers, tail trembling with curiosity. Niko barked and jumped, earning a laugh from a small boy who reached out eagerly. The moment looked so normal, 2 German Shepherd puppies melting into strangers' hands, that for a second I forgot the weight of what was strapped against me. But then Vera barked once, sharp, pulling everyone's attention. She stood taller on her fronts, chest rising, eyes locked on the boy's hand too close to Niko's collar. Not aggressive, protective, fiercely, unmistakably protective. The woman at the tent whispered, "She's guarding them." I just nodded. "She always will." A ripple of sympathy moved through the crowd. Phones tilted, lenses zoomed. Someone muttered, "That's love right there." I tightened the straps on her harness and bent close. "You're not here to prove anything, Vera," I said softly. But she didn't hear me, or maybe she did, and didn't care. Her gaze stayed pinned to her puppies, daring the world to try and take them. Then a sudden crack split the air. Thunder rolled over the plaza, low and mean, rattling through the glass of the nearby shops. Niko yelped, bolting sideways, his leash slipping from my fingers as the crowd gasped and scattered. Niko's leash whipped free from my hand, the thin nylon snapping back as the German Shepherd puppy darted into the stream of legs and shopping bags. His paws scrambled on slick stone, ears flat, tail tucked tight. Tali barked after him, straining against my other hand, her small body twisting like she could tear free and chase her brother into the chaos. "Hold tight, Vera," I muttered, dropping low, clutching Tali close while keeping the harness strap taut. But Vera had already shifted, muscles bunching in her front legs. She planted her paws and barked again, louder this time, her body braced like a wall against the tide of people. Eyes locked on Niko, she growled, short and sharp, and for a second the crowd actually parted, startled by her force. I pushed through the gap, heart hammering, my eyes scanning the plaza. Thunder boomed again, louder, ricocheting off the skyscrapers, and Niko skittered toward the curb. A bus rolled by on the avenue, tires hissing, horn blaring, its shadow swallowing him in an instant. My stomach dropped. I lunged forward, slipping past a vendor cart, ignoring the shouts around me. I caught sight of him, a blur of black and tan fur pressed against a newspaper stand, his small chest heaving, eyes wide with panic. He didn't see me. He only saw the open street beyond, headlights flashing through sheets of rain. If he bolted again, it would be over. "Easy, pup," I rasped, keeping my voice low, steady, though my pulse was anything but. I dropped to one knee, arms out, soaking through my jacket as cold water seeped from the pavement. Tali whimpered in my grip, twisting, her cries carrying over the plaza. Niko's ears flicked toward her, his head jerking. His eyes met mine for half a breath, caught between fear and recognition. Behind me, the dolly wheels screeched across stone. Vera had dragged herself forward, harness straps biting into my palm as I struggled to hold her back. But she wasn't trying to run away. She was forcing her way closer, front legs punching against the wet ground, every ounce of her weight pulling toward her puppy. The crowd gasped, phones up, but I didn't hear them. All I heard was the pounding of my heart and the rattle of Vera's growl as she closed the distance inch by inch. And then Niko twitched again, his paws sliding, body angling toward the open street. Niko's paws slid off the curb, claws scraping uselessly against the wet concrete. Headlights cut through the rain, a cab horn blasting so close it rattled in my bones. My breath caught. Too far, too fast, I couldn't reach him in time. And then Vera moved. She launched forward on her front legs, body dragging behind her, harness straps tearing at my grip. Her chest hit the pavement with a thud, her weight sliding across the slick stone. In one brutal surge, she threw herself across Niko's path, her body forming a wall between him and the street. The cab roared past, spray soaking her fur, headlights blinding us both. Niko froze against her shoulder, trembling, wide-eyed. Vera nudged him back with her nose, sharp, insistent, like a command only he could understand. He stumbled a step, then collapsed into the crook of her neck, pressed tight to her, safe. The plaza fell silent for a beat. Strangers stood frozen, phones lowered, mouths open. It wasn't just a rescue. It was a mother's body choosing to be a barricade, even when everything below her ribs refused to move. I rushed forward, scooping Niko into my arms, his tiny body shaking against my chest. Tali cried in my grip, twisting, reaching for him. I pressed them together, both pups collapsing into each other, tails flicking weakly. Vera's head lifted, rain dripping from her muzzle, eyes burning into mine. She had no words, but the message was clear. This is what I'll do for them. What will you do? What couldn't answer? Answer. Not yet. My throat was locked, the moment too heavy, too raw. That's when a hand touched my shoulder. I turned, still clutching both German Shepherd puppies. A woman stood there, raincoat hood thrown back, her teenage son at her side, eyes wide and wet. "We'll take them," she said, voice shaking. "All three. Together, if you'll let us." The words hung in the rain, impossible, unreal. Vera's ears twitched, her gaze shifting from me to them. The crowd exhaled like the city itself had been holding its breath. I swallowed hard, still kneeling on the slick ground. The pups clutched against me, Vera panting, rain pooling under her. For the first time since that night on 34th Street, I felt the world tilt, not toward loss, but toward something I didn't dare believe in yet. The rain eased into a mist as the family knelt beside me, their hands hesitant, almost reverent. The boy reached out first, palm trembling, and one German Shepherd puppy pressed his wet nose into it without fear. The other puppy wriggled against my chest, tail flicking weakly, eyes locked on the mother dog still lying across the pavement. The woman crouched lower, her raincoat brushing the ground. "She's the bravest dog I've ever seen," she whispered, almost to herself. The mother dog shifted, dragging her chest higher, front legs trembling as she pulled closer. Her eyes never left the pups, but for the first time she let her gaze rest on the strangers. Something softened in her face, as if she recognized a promise waiting there. I adjusted the harness straps and helped lift the mother dog upright onto the dolly. The boy steadied it with both hands, his jaw tight like he'd been given a task too big for him and wouldn't let it slip. The pups clung to each other in my arms, their small bodies quivering but no longer frantic. We walked together across Union Square, the city buzzing around us. People turned to watch, some applauding softly, some with tears streaming unchecked. The mother dog sat taller in the cart now, chest forward, ears angled toward the pups every time they whimpered. It wasn't surrender, it was trust. She was letting me and now them carry the weight for once. At the adoption tent, papers were drawn up quickly. The woman signed her name with firm strokes, her son resting a hand on one of the puppies the whole time. They stay together, I said, my voice hoarse but steady. Non-negotiable. The volunteer smiled. Together. Always. When the final form slid across the table, the mother dog leaned forward on her front paws, nose brushing the page as if sealing it herself. Cameras flashed, but I barely noticed. What mattered was the sound behind me. Two tails thumping in sync against the boy's knees. The rhythm of safety finally found. I let go of the leashes, my hands suddenly empty, and watched as the family formed in front of me. Mother dog steady in her cart, two German Shepherd puppies pressed against new arms, a boy grinning like he'd just been handed the world. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the city pressing down. I felt it lift. I'll never forget the sight of that mother dog in her cart, head high, watching her two German Shepherd puppies tumble into the arms of their new family. She had nothing left to give, her body broken, her legs unmoving, and yet she had given everything. She chose to fight, to drag herself forward when the city turned away, to stand between her babies and a world that could have swallowed them whole. That is love in its truest, fiercest form. This little guy's journey from abandonment to rehabilitation shows how important nonprofit rescue groups really are. Because without the network of people who refuse to look away, stories like Vera's would end in silence. Caring for a rescued puppy is more than love. It's responsibility. It's pet care. It means food bowls filled, harness straps adjusted, vet visits made. It means seeing the worth in a life others passed by. If you've been moved by this story, share it. Share it, because every click, every comment, every time this video reaches another pair of eyes, it raises the chance for another dog on another street to be seen, to be saved, to be carried into a future that doesn't end on cold concrete. We tell these stories not just to remember, but to remind ourselves what compassion looks like when it's hard, when it costs us something, when it demands more than convenience. That's the moment love becomes action. Join our Brave Paws family. Be their voice. Be their hope.